Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch.
Hacks.
Hey y'all, hey, welcome to Sisters Who Watch.
Hello, I'm Shelby.
And I'm Laura, and we're sisters who watch everything. TV, movies, sports, concerts, and two toxic comedians in a horrible friendship. Work relationship? Question mark? Anyways, today we're watching...
Ambiguous.
Today we're watching Hacks.
Season 4 of the Emmy-winning comedy show. That's right. Since we recorded and reviewed Hacks Season 3, it won an Emmy.
Yes.
So yay for Hacks.
Snaps for Hacks.
And Season 3 was really good. I remember that was one of our favorite shows last year. So happy they won. Only thing is, once you win an Emmy, it's a lot to follow up on, you know? Hacks, this is the Max comedy. Well, Laura, you heard that they're...
Yeah, it's now HBO Max again. People that came out during Cannes and people were like, HBO Max, it's HBO Max again. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so bizarre.
So funny. So this summer, once it changes, it will now be an HBO Max original, not just a Max original.
Whatever. As if it actually, people stop calling it HBO Max.
So funny. I think just like 2 years is how long it's been. That's just the amount of time when I feel like people are starting to come around. Like, okay, Max. And then
I know. I'm like,
Max.
you need to
Hilarious.
lean in. Commit. Because now it's like, okay, so we're going back to HBO Max?
I think it's smart because you just need to own your mistake and realize the HBO brand is one of the biggest brands. Like, people care about HBO. You just had, like, I think I think the owner realized, okay, we made a mistake. We were wrong. And we just had to own it.
Yeah. Shelby, what were you expecting, right? We talked about it just won an Emmy. I feel like expectations were really high.
Yes. And I actually saw the creators of the show in a screening of Sinners. I saw Paul W. Downs, Lucia Aniello, and Jen Satsi. They were in my row when I saw Sinners. So I'm like so thrilled to be talking about the show even more because I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you met them, your friends, basically.
Yeah,
right?
They like walked past me to sit down. But no, expectations were high. This is one of my favorite comedies right now. There aren't many to choose from, but this is one of my favorites. I will say, because season 3 ended with a cliffhanger of Ava deciding to blackmail Deborah and holding over her the fact that she slept with, I'm forgetting the president's character in the show. Sorry, I think of him as Fitz.
I know.
I'm forgetting Tony Goldwyn's name in Hacks, but Ava was basically blackmailing Deborah for sleeping with Fitz to get the job, which isn't necessarily true, right? Yes, she slept with Fitz. Yes, she got the late night job. There were other factors, but that wouldn't look good, right, if that came out. So I was nervous. I was concerned for Ava because I don't think she's that evil of a person. You know, Deborah has done a lot of evil, but Ava seems a bit more good-hearted. So I was like, how is she going to be able to keep up with this lie and charade and blackmail? What about you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think last season left on a cliffhanger. So I was intrigued to see what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, late night's going to be a mess because Ava is threatening the woman who threats. You know what I mean? Like Queen Threatener. Yeah. So I knew that it was going to be bad for Ava. And it was. It absolutely was. So I was intrigued. I knew that this season was going to start juicy.
So right off the bat, there's drama and shocker. Deborah isn't happy that Ava's blackmailing her, and she decides to make Ava's life miserable. She sends underwear to someone's desk and office in the building and says it's from Ava, and then Ava gets in trouble with HR. She literally does kind of like what I think a fraternity hazing would be. It's like what Deborah's doing. I was like, uh-oh, Ava's in trouble. Deborah is fighting back, and she's been in this industry a long time, so she knows what she's doing.
Absolutely. And because of the shenanigans, they get an HR person involved. And the HR person can't leave Deborah and Ava alone. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, and what was her name? I guess it doesn't matter. But she was so funny. Like the fact that I know the actress's name is Michaela Watkins. I can't remember her name in the show, but Michaela Watkins' character she was just classic like HR, like such a nuisance to everyone. She was sneezing and coughing and interrupting. She would slip and fall. Like she was not helpful. She definitely
No.
was not an added benefit to the show. So I found that like hilarious. And she honestly kind of brought Ava and Deborah together because they would bond over how much they hated her. Like they would make jokes
Yeah.
at her expense. Another new guest star this season was Robbie Hoffman, Laura. Did you notice that? Did you pick that up?
I did. Gabby Wendy's wife. New wife. So bizarre.
I had never seen like her act or her comedy, so I was like shook. I only know her through Gabby Wendy, you know?
Yeah, same.
And so I thought it was just another kind of like oddball to just throw into the Jimmy Kayla dynamic. They now have this assistant who has this thick kind of New York accent and seems incompetent, but then shows some skill, kind of like Kayla. I was like, it's giving the Kayla arc, like incompetent, but has their own way of doing things.
Yes.
But it just seemed like the Jimmy and Kayla new management firm was a mess. And I thought it was kind of funny seeing them try to figure it out. Jimmy getting like being on set and then getting bit by the dog.
Kayla is such a good character. I love her so much. Megan Stalter, put her in everything.
She's hysterical. And when she found out that her dad poached the comedian that had cancer but recovered to his firm, and she was screaming and like pouting, like having a tantrum.
I can't.
She's so funny. Oh my gosh.
I love her. Schaefer and LuSaque and Schaefer. Hilarious.
The back and forth deciding what it would be named. I was like, this is too much. It's hysterical. And something else that I think Hacks does a good job of is like the storylines and people transfer over, right? Like last season, the fact that Jimmy and Kayla signed this guy who everyone thought was going to die because his comedy was about having cancer, and they bring him back and he's like, oh, I'm alive. I'm in remission and I'm leaving your firm. Like, I think they do a good job. Like even when DJ came back and had the baby, like they tied it in. And I think a lot of shows, they don't have consistent storylines through seasons. And Hacks is very methodical. Like they do a good job of like, we mentioned this once and we're going to bring it back. Like you've met this character, we're going to bring them back. It's really smart.
Something that I thought was really funny was when they had the focus group being like, oh, like, what do we think about Deborah Vance as a new late night host? And women hate Deborah.
Shocker.
I know. So funny. She was like, yeah, I don't like women either. And so they're like, moms. We need more, moms to like Deborah. Dance Mom. What did you think?
Played by Julianne Nicholson.
I know, from Paradise.
The range, because she's also from Mare of Easttown. I'm just like,
yeah, she's popping up.
Julianne Nicholson has really done dramatic stuff, and to see her as this crazy, unhinged TikTok dancer.
So funny. Dance Mom. Mother of dance.
Twist, we find out she's not a mother.
That was so crazy. I was like...
And she's like, dance is my child. Mother of dance. That's the username I wanted, and it wasn't there, so I
picked... I can't. That was so... And then Jimmy just has a breakdown. He's like, I can't do this. And Dance Mom is like a coke addict. She's blowing all her money.
Spending $40,000 a week in rent on Adam Levine's house.
I know. Dance Mom was a really good storyline. I really loved Dance Mom. So funny.
So funny because it's also like good commentary. Because it's like, yeah, on these late night shows now and on these shows, whether it's like the J Hud show, they bring people from social media and all these personalities. And I bet you, like, there probably is a reoccurring like Dance Mom type figure on something that I just don't know because I don't watch these shows.
Yeah. I know. I feel like, as I was watching the season, I used to love all these late night shows, but that was like 10 years ago, right? Like,
I remember we were like so excited to stay up late, and our uncle was like, yeah, I like watching, the late night. And we're like, oh. And I cannot tell you the last time I watched a late night show.
No, I don't watch them at all. It was like when I feel like it was really popping off. It was like Trevor Noah, John Oliver, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and yes, like a lot of those people are James Corden. And yes, a bunch of those people are still there, but it's just nowhere near. It felt so popular. Like I feel like late night had a moment like 10 years ago, like mid 2010s. I feel like it was just like I was watching Jimmy Fallon all the time. I was watching Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert all the time. James Corden, I loved watching it, and now I'm like, I never watch that anymore.
Was it Trump's first presidency? Is that why?
No, literally, 2016 was when all these things were popping off. It was all, yes, I do think that was part of it.
You remember we went to the Daily Show's presidential Twitter library?
Yeah, that was when I was like upset. Like I loved Trevor Noah and all these like political satire things. Yeah, I was in it. Yes. So I think it was late night was here, but I think it's kind of dying now.
Yikes.
Which is sad.
I know, end of an era. And it is interesting commentary, right? Because that was something they were dealing with. Like, how do we kind of reinvent late night and make it not just topical on like news stories? So they decided to record the day before and have like more interesting segments and have Deborah interview people that she knows or can be funny with. Like the mayor of Vegas. What did you think of the mayor of Vegas?
I know, who had a sex scandal. I was like, of course Deborah had her on. It's smart because it's like, how can we be different? Yeah, everyone's making fun of her. She's the number one story. Let's actually have her on. So I thought that was a really cool idea, right? We're kind of seeing behind the scenes of a live show and TV magic. Yeah, I thought that was a really good storyline. And right, we're empowering women, you know, woman to woman, sitting down, being like, tell me. And then, right, like the way to defeat a scandal is to make fun of it. And she was owning it. She was having fun. So I thought that was a great moment.
100% agree. I also, speaking of like Vegas, what did you think of their writers' retreat in Vegas?
So Deborah. And I love, like, it was so funny how Deborah was like, oh, I want them to have fun. Like, I want them to work. And she was like, maybe give them drugs and alcohol, go to a strip club. And it was so interesting how all the employees were like reported this to HR. Like, I was surprised by that. I was like, oh my gosh.
New era. I know. Feel like Deborah probably thought like when she grew up, like, you know, working, that was something people would love. Not Gen Z millennials.
No, Gen Z millennials are like, this makes me feel uncomfortable.
I want to be in a safe place. I want to be at home.
I don't want free alcohol and drugs from my boss. I know, because I also
boundaries.
Like, yes. I know. I thought that was so interesting. Because I was like, oh yeah, that, I mean, it seems like kind of fun, but I was like, oh, they report her to HR.
That was savage.
Yeah,
I did not see that coming. And that was like, yeah, when that happened, it was like, oh yeah, are they ever gonna get along? Like, is there gonna be anything redeeming between Deborah and Ava?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
What did you think of Deborah having a panic attack and thinking she's having a heart attack?
I thought it was good to kind of like humble her a bit and show that like Deborah is human. Like I feel like so much can to be like, oh, yeah, I'm a workhorse. I know what I'm doing. I'm better than everyone. I don't need help. Like, I can do it on my own. I can eat 5 almonds and hard-boiled egg and be fine. Like, when you saw like what she was eating, it was like, girl, no wonder your like body is stressed.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good moment to kind of bring her back to earth and realize that like they had the iconic guest star Carol Burnett at like the doctor's office with her. And she's like gave her advice. Like,
that was good.
Just look at someone in the room, and then the person she looks at to feel better is Ava. And I feel like that was a moment for Deborah, like, oh yeah, even though she's blackmailing me and even though I've been rude, and kind of like to the point of making Ava have a breakdown by bringing her ex onto the show and having her tell an embarrassing story about Ava. Oh, I know, like, that was... Deborah is brutal. Deborah is really tough.
And I think Deborah is great at her job, right? Like, she knew that that story was good, that it'd be funny, but it's like, at what cost, Deborah? You know what I mean? So that was a tough moment, but it's like, Deborah, you know, she, for the ratings, right? And we see in the end, she chooses, you know, Ava over ratings, which was crazy. We'll get to that.
We'll have to get to that.
Yeah, I know. We have to unpack all of that.
Yeah. That's what's interesting, because Deborah, this whole like this whole late night thing, right? She initially didn't want Ava to be the head writer because she was focused on making this the best show and like having good ratings. And then she's like, I need better writers. This guy's not funny because we need to be the best show. Like that was like her goal. And then I think she's, after how badly that joke and story with Ava's ex went for Ava, she was like, oh, I think I need to find another way to have the best late night show and to like make this great without sacrificing relationships.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I also feel like that came to a head even more with the christening episode.
Yes. I was gonna, before we got to that, I was gonna talk about Mrs. Table, the breakdown.
Yes,
right?
sorry, yeah. Talk about that.
So
that
you mentioned
episode was great.
So you mentioned Ava's breakdown and how, you know, Deborah was kind of bullying Ava. I mean, they're kind of bullying each other.
They're a really
just
bad,
toxic,
odd couple. And we've known this since season 1.
Yes.
Yet they still work together.
And Mrs. Table, when I saw the name of the episode, I was like, what is Mrs. Table?
I always look at the names too, because I'm curious. I'm like, ooh, what is this going to relate to?
And Deborah's like, you treat these people too well. You treat the writers too well. You subsidize their lunch. And then they're at lunch. And she's like, who's Mrs. Table?
Because she looks at,
all the food that they got. And there's like a whole branzino for Mrs.
that
Table.
has Mrs. Table on it. And she's like, whose order is this?
And they're like, oh, like we just ordered a branzino for the table. And she was like, you're using my subsidy to get whole branzino that's $62. Like, and she spiraled. She lost it.
And this, right, it comes after the whole Ruby interview gone wrong.
Yeah.
You realize maybe I am treating the writers too well. They're taking advantage of me. They're not really my friends. Like, and she drives off the lot and does not wait for like the, what do you call it? Like the gate thing?
Yeah.
To close and drives right through it. I was like, oh, Ava's not playing.
No, there are a lot of breakdowns this season.
Multiple people had breakdowns, and justifiably so. They were being pushed to their wits' end. And, you know, sadly, entertainment can do that, or any job can do that. But I think the entertainment industry, when you're doing something that you're very passionate about and you think you love, and the fact that your identity and your passion are all tied to a job, and it's going really bad, or people aren't respecting you or treating you well, I think it's a bad combination.
Yeah. And it was a really sweet moment where Deborah is like, I have to find Ava. And she goes to that gay bar. That was so funny. And it's like, is Ava here? And they're like, no. And so she uses Find My.
Like, use Find My. Yeah. She was like, what?
And Ava's at the beach and she thinks Ava's about to drown herself. So she goes and runs into the water. And then Deborah like gets hypothermia basically. And Ava's like, what are you doing?
And she's like, I was looking funny. For you. It was like a rom-com. And Ava's like, what? Crazy.
Yeah.
And then they literally bond over like a old bottle of wine Ava had in her car.
I can't. These two are nuts. Yeah. I was just like, Deborah, you really chased after. What were you going to do, girl?
It just shows it's such a love-hate relationship because they obviously have so much love for each other, but it's hard for them to just admit it. They keep fighting and pulling back, and it's like, just admit you guys honestly are like mother and daughter, but you don't say it.
No. Yeah, they do, because like a lot of moms and daughters don't have great relationships. They fight all the time, and it's just like, that's what it's giving, because it's like they do love each other, but I'm like Ruby said, Ava's ex, you should not be working for this woman. And I really do think they should cut ties, because this is not a healthy relationship.
And it gets
worse.
Unhealthy.
It gets worse.
Even more unhealthy. So they have a bit of a good moment at the christening. You know, they returned to Vegas to celebrate DJ's son's christening. Ava's the godmother, which surprised me.
Why?
I didn't see that coming. I don't see how Ava could give guidance in that way.
No.
I feel bad for the son.
So bizarre.
And, you know, they start to bond. And you're like, okay, yeah, Deborah and Ava are turning over a new leaf. They're like hiding from the HR exec because they're getting along. And you're like, wow, it's coming together. It really is. Until the Witch of the Week episode. This episode, you see again Deborah's true colors. Like, they're finally the #1 show in late night. Ava's mom's in town to visit, and she's just so happy. And they're just like, yes, it's going great. I'm the youngest head writer in comedy. It's just such a big deal. Speaking of Ava's mom visiting, what do you think of Ava living at the Glendale Americana Mall? You haven't been, have you?
No, but it's great. I love it because right now all these malls have apartments. You're like, who is living there? And yeah, I think it's great. She goes down the escalator in her pajamas to meet Deb, and she lives above a wet seal and a Wetzel's Pretzels. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
I feel like the show is doing every year an even better job of showing parts of LA. Like the fact that they filmed at a Larchmont grocery store that I've been to, and that's where Deborah sees Kristen Bell. Like, I'm just like, I love it. Keep showing all the LA spots. The Witch of the Week episode, they're on a high, #1 show in late night, but Deborah had conflict with Helen Hunt's character, who's like the head of comedy at their studio and is like running the late night show, and basically that's like who's overseeing it, producing it. And they've had conflicts, and when they're celebrating, Helen Hunt is like, well, I really think, this is just the first step and we got to do that spinoff. And Deborah gets annoyed because she's like, I just want to celebrate, and the last thing I want is a spinoff. So she decides to complain to Tony Goldwyn, Helen Hunt's boss, the man that she had slept with, that is like the owner of everything, like the CEO, like David Zaslav, right? It leads to Helen Hunt's character's firing the next day because Deborah's like, yeah, I'd love her to stop bothering me about this spinoff ever again.
So when they talk about spinoff, it's just like how Jimmy Fallon does Password or something.
Yes. It's like if they decided to make an actual carpool karaoke TV show.
Yeah.
Or if they gave The Roots like their own kind of music show spinoff of late night.
Okay, yeah, that's what
Which didn't seem like that bad to me. So I was trying to figure out what was Deborah's issue. Like, she must be a purist. Like, I don't want to deal with a game show. I don't want to spin off. Like, I just want to focus on my comedy and my late night. And classic Deborah, this was her demise. Because she got greedy. She was upset. Because having Tony Goldwyn as your new boss, not great.
No.
Not great. And ugh.
Yeah, and the next episode is when everything just falls apart. A Slippery Slope, top rated on IMDb. Yeah, so basically they have this guy on. Tony Goldwyn's like, oh, we need to have this actor on. And Ava's like, no, he has allegations against him. This guy's a bad guy. And Deborah's like, we have to listen to Tony Goldwyn. We have to listen to him.
He's the boss now.
He's the boss. And then this was so stupid of Ava. This episode, I was so mad at her. Because, yes, everything is kind of Deborah's fault, but this was Ava's fault. The reason why all of this happened. So Ava's complaining to one of her former coworkers who worked on, like, the
John Oliver
type show. And was like, oh, like, they're making us, like, censor our show. Like, Deborah made a joke about this guy, and it's just, like, so annoying. Like, why do we have to appease to this predator? And then it's like, Ava, what? I actually was like, you are so stupid. And then they run a story about this man and how the company is censoring him, and it's like a big scandal. And Tony Goldwyn's like, Deb, you have to fire Ava.
We know she was the mole.
She was the mole. She was the leak.
You either fire her or the show's over.
Yes, fire her or the show's done. And it's like, Deborah, why didn't you just fire Ava? I honestly didn't understand that.
It's like, shows that they literally are mother and daughter. Like, they love each other too much. Like, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. Because Ava would have understood. She's like, I made a mistake. We can
This is
still,
your dream.
yes, this is your dream. We could still work together. Like, this doesn't mean that,
like, I can help with your like stand-up specials or other things,
they can
but
still hang out and
I
do
just,
things.
you know, I'll find another job, right? I'm young.
Right. Like, Ava's career is not over. Deb, but
No.
Deb, your career is over. It did not make any sense.
I also think she realized how reliant she has become on Ava for the jokes and as her head writer.
Yeah.
Like, I think she realized that their comedy is very intertwined and her growth as a comedian is very intertwined. So I think she was worried that if she lost her, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. I was just so frustrated. I was like, Deb, why would you sabotage your whole career? Right. It's like, she's in her 70s. You're not going to get another chance like this. Did you think that Deborah made the right choice by ending the show on live TV and being like, this is the last episode, and Jimmy beating up
was
Tony Goldwyn?
Insane. First of all, you think Deborah makes the other choice, that she's going to keep the show because she sends Ava to cover the Oscars.
Yeah.
And then Ava goes there to ready to do a bit, and they're like, oh, your name's not on the list. And she runs into Helen Hunt, and she's like, tell Deborah F her. She is a snake. And so all of a sudden, Ava's like, oh no, did Deborah do this to me? And then you cut to Deborah going live, and you hear her say, yeah, I'm the one showing late night, but I've been asked to fire my head writer. And you're like, oh wow, she's choosing Ava, even though we thought she wasn't. So it was a good misdirect. I think it makes sense for the story of how toxic of a relationship they have. Like, they are so up and down, and given the fact that Ava started the season blackmailing her and Deborah like lashed out, and the fact that Deborah would make such a grand gesture to realize, no, like I actually really need Ava with my comedy, I think it's a big deal. And I also think Deborah doesn't like to be challenged, right? Or blackmailed or given ultimatums. Like, I think she did not like what Tony Goldwyn said to her. I also don't think I think she acted emotionally. She didn't realize the ramifications.
Yeah, and the
as
contract
we soon
that
find
she
out.
Oh my gosh. I was like, Deborah, you're a fool. You didn't look at your contract before you decided to blow up your show.
She made the heart decision. Like, I always love go with your heart, but I think you have to do a bit more like of an educated heart decision, if that makes sense. Like, I wish she had done a bit more research, because I think if she had known, spoiler alert, that she wouldn't be able to do comedy without, like, you know, facing legal ramifications, I don't think she would have done that.
The two of them in the final episode.
So then, right, we find out Deborah can't do comedy. Tony Goldwyn's like, we own you for 18 months. We have a non-compete clause. And her and Ava are trying to figure out what to do.
Right.
So in the finale, you can kind of see Deborah's depressed, which makes sense. Yeah. This was her dream. Comedy's, like, being a late night host was her dream. Comedy is her life. All she does is work. And you sense her starting to get a bit annoyed by Ava. And you're like, yikes. You're seeing her age now, are you?
Yeah.
And Deborah ends up going back to Vegas. And we see, you know, and bringing back another guest star, Marty, like her good old friend, former kind of friends with benefits. And he's like, why don't you go to Hawaii? Like, I own a hotel there. You can just rest, relax, take a vacation. And she's like, fine. And so she's going to go to Hawaii with Ava. Why do you think she invited Ava?
I know, right? Like, why?
I was surprised. But maybe it was all a part of her plan. Because, like, if she was just going to Hawaii, she wouldn't have brought Ava. No. But because she decided to go to Singapore to do comedy in another language, and so that's how it was the loophole. If they translate it and tell the jokes, I'm not breaking my non-compete clause. Deborah's insane.
Yeah. What did you think of that whole and then they start resenting each other and they get an argument, and yeah, what did you think of the whole Singapore of it all?
I was shocked because I wanted Deborah to rest.
I know.
Take a much needed break.
Like, a year and a half isn't that long.
You've been working so much. You just had such an emotional kind of public thing. Like, you probably need to go on a retreat and just, like, isolate for a little bit. Yeah. So I was disappointed for her. But then when I saw Singapore, I was like, I want to go to Singapore.
Yeah, it's another trendy, buzzy spot a lot of people are
Yes,
going to.
so stunning. And I like, I was disappointed
Yeah.
because it felt like you were saying they fell back into their old pattern. Like, okay, Ava's helping Deborah write jokes, but she doesn't really. First of all, Ava thought she was going to Hawaii, and
Yeah.
now she's in Singapore, kind of against her will. I mean, she's an adult; she can leave, but like, she, it's that weird dynamic. I think she feels like she has to be there for Deborah. You know, she's
Yeah.
worried about her
Yeah.
mental health. This is her job, and they're kind of a two peas in a pod. But I probably wouldn't be as excited about this either. They really do start to resent each other, and they get into a big fight.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah's like, "You're 29 and I'm your only friend. That's crazy. What does that say about you?" Like, she was just insulting Ava. Like, brutal. And I'm like, Deborah, the same thing could be said about you. Ava's like your only friend. What does that say about, like, this is
Yeah.
just unhealthy in general. And she's like, "Why are you still here? You should just leave." And Ava's like, "Fine, I will." And Ava decides to leave. And so she walks away, and Deborah stays there drinking and dancing. And it just, again, doesn't really seem like Deborah's happy. Like, she's
No.
getting to do comedy, but it's almost like she's medicating. Ava goes to bed, and she wakes up to her phone buzzing, and she sees all these missed calls from Jimmy, and she answers. And he's like, this show is crazy. He's like, "Ava, when's the last time you saw Deborah? What happened? Where's Deborah?" She's like, "What?" He's like, "TMZ said that she's dead."
Come
Laura,
on.
what did she think when that happened?
I was just like, there's no way she died. That'd be a crazy way to end it. I was like, this isn't real. No. Or maybe she like passed out on a boat or something. But I was like, Deborah's not dead.
I was like, because she seemed kind of depressed and like self-medicating. I'm like, could she have fallen over the boat like Tanya in White Lotus?
Possible.
Like, I honestly thought, I was like, would they kill her off? Like, I'm like,
No.
that's
They
crazy.
wouldn't.
But like you, I was like, oh, maybe she had an accident or something, and like people thought she died. Like, maybe she was, passed out or in the hospital or something.
Yeah.
So then Ava runs to the hotel in her classic, bizarre-looking outfit. I will say I am repping Ava today. I'm wearing like a classic kind of loose collared shirt that she likes to wear.
That's it.
So imagine me like running through a hotel and casino like Ava, and she's sprinting, finally gets to Deborah's door and is knocking like a crazy person. "Deborah, Deborah." And then the door opens, and shocker, Deborah is alive and well.
Oh, wow. They didn't kill Deborah.
And Deborah's like, "What? Why are you hugging me? What's wrong? I thought you were leaving." And she's like, "I thought you were dead. Team Z announced you were dead." And she was like, "What?" And she was like, "Well, a lot of these, companies, outlets, they prepare obits for famous people. So I guess they had mine ready." And she looks at it and gets pissed because it says that Deborah killed Late Night because of her
Yikes.
fiasco. And she's like, "I'm going to be remembered as the person who killed Late Night." And she started throwing things out of her closet and, putting things on her bed. And Ava's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "We're leaving. We're going home." And Ava was like, "I was already going home." She was like, "No, I'm not going out like this. I'm gonna write better material. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do comedy. I will be remembered for something else." And then it ends. I was shook.
Crazy. Not
That
as
was off the rails.
Yeah. I feel like this ending is not as big of a cliffhanger. It's more just like Deborah's gonna go back and do comedy, which we knew that she was gonna do. So
I mean,
yeah.
given how this, like, I think what's interesting about Hacks is like the way this season started, I would have no idea this is how it would end.
I agree with that.
Like, they have so many ups and downs. Like the fact that she lost Late Night
over Ava.
Oh
my gosh.
But honestly, it started when she decided to get rid of Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like that was a catalyst, but it was mostly because of Ava. And then you end up in Singapore. Like, I think it just shows the writers and like are on another level.
Yes.
Like, I agree the cliffhanger was not as like insane as last season, but still I was like, oh, they're not playing around. They are just thinking about so much more than I would even.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So that's the season. Shelby, what do you think? Is Hack season 4 a wait or a watch?
I think it's a watch. Honestly, like, not many least favorite moments beyond Deborah kind of kicking herself in the foot and losing late night.
Major least favorite moment.
But overall, I thought it was funny. I thought they had like, you know, good moments. Again, a lot of like the Kayla and Jimmy, LuSaque and Schaefer, whatever their name, LuSaque, whatever their company is
LuSaque and
called.
Schaefer and LuSaque.
I think they're highlights. Like they're so funny.
Yeah, I thought Dance Mom was a highlight.
Dance Mom,
Dance
like
Mom
and
funny.
like that was really good.
Yeah.
And
like when Dance Mom first did a dance with Deborah, that was so funny. She was like, "Deb, come on," and then Deborah's like,
"Yeah, that was crazy."
That was so funny. Then Ava's like, "Arr." Ava's like, "No,"
because she's like, "This is like cinema. I don't want, you know."
And she's like, "I'm an artist." Ava's like, "I'm an artist. I'm a serious writer," and she's not Dance Mom doing TikTok dances. That was so funny.
Oh my gosh. So what do you think? Is it a wait or a watch?
I definitely think it's a watch. I think this season was maybe more frustrating. I was just like, Deborah, like it's such a huge deal. It just didn't seem realistic to me. I was like, you're going to sacrifice everything you worked hard for to only be the host for a few months for
That's
Ava. I was just like, that just, yes, they have a toxic relationship. I was just like, that's insane. I
think it shows growth on her. I agree. It's kind of like outlandish, but I think it just
Yeah.
shows a lot of growth for Deborah.
But yeah, I did enjoy it. I didn't like the ending as much, but I mean, Hacks is always so funny. So absolutely a watch.
Amazing. And for our what to watch segment, spoiler alert, Hacks has been renewed for season 5.
Woo!
So we'll be ready for that.
Yes.
Next year. I love how they're like really consistent. It's like every spring we have a season.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. I mean, you know, also the Emmys that happened later this year in September. We'll see. Nominations aren't out yet, but I'd be shocked if Hacks doesn't get noms again in most categories.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking for other comedy shows, The Bear comes out in June.
Heyo. We'll see how it is. I feel like the past couple seasons have not been giving
I know.
as they should be. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I also saw that Hannah Einbinder has her first stand-up comedy special.
Yes, on Max, soon to be HBO Max.
Yeah. Well, if you enjoyed this episode of Sisters Who Watch, please give us 5 stars. 5 stars, please, wherever you listen. That would be so much appreciated. And you can follow us on our social media platforms at Sisters Who Watch. Give us a like, give us a follow, comment. That would be so helpful. Thanks, y'all.
Yes, and we really want to hear from you. You can DM us, you can comment, you can subscribe. We appreciate all of the support. Thanks for tuning in.
Everything.
Stay watching.
Stay watching.